This voice agent can book car service appointments based on the car service history. It helps car dealerships save money by answering calls instantly without a queue. Hi, I'm Mark from retell.ai. In this video, I'll show you a quick introduction to voice agents. I'll show you a voice agent that I've built that can book appointments for a car service. Finally, I'll show you how it was built and what tools were used. Here's an illustration of how a voice platform works. It uses speech-to-text to translate your voice to text. It then sends that text to the voice agent, and the voice agent replies in text, and it gets translated back into speech. The voice platform has one or more voice agents that can use one or multiple tools. The tools are essentially tasks that the voice agent can perform. The voice agent is assigned a phone number. So the user can call a phone number and arrives to the voice agent, where it can start the conversation, and the voice agent will use a workflow to follow a certain plan. It has a brain in the form of a large language model, and its memory allows it to keep track of the conversation history. Now, the tools that I've used in this example are to check an API, to check calendar availability, and to plan an event in the calendar. You can use all sorts of tools depending on your context, needs, and project. Typical voice platforms that are used are Vapi and retell.ai. And what is usually done is using an automation platform to extend the tools that you use. The standard tools in a voice platform are quite limited, so if you want to do anything a bit more complicated, you'll add an automation platform like make.com or n8n, so you can perform more complicated tasks. In my example, I've used retell.ai as the voice agent, I've used make.com as the automation platform, and I'll be connecting to an external API. Just for context, this is a UK-specific API that can give information on a vehicle's MOT certificate, which is a legal certificate you need to make your car road legal in the UK. This is just an example. It can connect to any API that you want to connect to. And finally, I'm connecting to a Google Calendar to check and add appointments. Now let me show you a demo of this voice agent I've built. You'll notice me speaking directly to my computer. If this was a real-world application, you would connect a phone number to that voice agent, so it could be reached by phone.
Thank you for calling the car service centre. How may I help you today?
I would like to book in my car for service.
Absolutely. I can help with that. Could you please give me your car's registration?
Yeah, it's RF69HKL.
Of course. No problem. Just to confirm, that's Romeo, Foxtrot, 6, Niner, Hotel, Kilo, Lima. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Hang on while I look up this registration number. Thanks for waiting. So I've got your car as a Mini Cooper S in orange. Is that the right one?
Yeah, that's it.
Great, thanks for confirming. So your MOT is valid until January 2026, so you're all set there for now. Since your Mini is from 2020, I'd recommend a full service at this stage to keep everything running smoothly. Also, your last MOT flagged both front and rear brake pads as wearing thin. It's important we check those and also have a good look at your tyres for any wear or damage. Would you like to go ahead and book a full service with a brake and tyre inspection?
Yeah, let's do that.
Please hold on while I check our calendar for availability. Thanks for waiting. Our next available days for booking are Monday, December 1st, Tuesday, December 2nd, and Wednesday, December 3rd. Which of those works best for you?
Monday will work.
Great, let me get this booked in. You're all booked in for Monday, December 1st. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
That's all, thanks.
Thank you for calling the car service. Have a nice day.
So there we have it. Our appointment was booked in by our agents. Just to prove that it was booked in our calendar, you can see here the details of the appointment added to the title of the calendar event. Let me now show you how this agent was built. I've used a conversational flow agent in retell.ai. It is set to English and it has a voice selected. It is set to rigid mode, For this example, in a production mode, you will probably use flex mode to allow the user, for example, to ask questions mid-flow. It uses GPT 4.1 and it has a global prompt here that instructs how to respond to the user. It also provides the current time, which is useful for planning a calendar event. You've seen it flow through the workflow in the demo. I won't go through all these in detail. What it does is extract the registration of the car from the user, and then it starts to make its first tool use by calling the MOT API, which is done in make.com. Now I'll show you how this is connected. If we look at this function for the MOT call, API call, we can see that it's calling a webhook, which triggers the scenario in make.com. There's a little description for the agent of when to use this tool call, and we send the car registration number to the webhook, so the API call can look up that specific car registration number. That's all in Retell. Let's go over to make.com. This is the scenario for the API call. I won't explain this in detail. This is specific to this API. It's getting an authentication token and then calling the API and coming back with a response. Once it gets a response back from the API, so essentially from make.com, it continues and it's gonna store that data that it received in variables to use within this voice agent conversation context. It then asks the user to confirm if it is indeed the car that they want to book in for service. If the user replies positive, then it goes on to determine what service is needed for this car. It does this partly based on the observations that came back from the last check that the car had, which is all in the information that the API returns. It then determines the service type advised, and then it goes on to book a calendar event for the appointment. Now, the way this works is that I've used a component for this, which is kind of a sub-scenario that runs in Retell. I'll open it here. This is a generic check calendar and then book a day event. I've made it as a module or a subcomponent so that it can be used for other voice agents potentially. The way I've built this calendar tool is that I made a architectural design first. It looks more complicated than it is, but essentially I differentiate between either booking a whole day event in the calendar or booking a time slot. So a car appointment is typically, at least in the UK, a day event where you choose a day. If you have occasions where you need to book in a time slot like a meeting, you can call a different function which indicates of being a time slot. It makes more sense when you'll see the scenarios in make.com. There's essentially three of them. One is to check the day availability. One is to check a specific time box availability in the calendar. And the third one is to actually add the event. And that scenario has a router, so it can book both day events or time boxed events. Let's have a look at the scenarios in make.com. Here we have the first scenario in make.com, which is to check the calendar for a daytime availability. Now this looks like a pretty simple scenario. That's because it's calling an already existing calendar agent that I've built previously. That calendar agent is simply instructed to check calendar availability and book calendar events or change or delete them. So it's a make agent which has three tools, which are scenarios by themselves. Based on the scenario inputs of these tools, the agent can decide by itself what kind of information it needs to provide. I won't go into detail how this is built, but I will show you now the scenario that helps us book in events. This is the scenario to book in events. Both the timebox events and the day event functions can call this scenario. I provide a parameter which indicates whether it's a day or a timebox we want to book, and the router then decides to call the agent and request either a day event, so they check the day event option in the calendar, or they book a timeboxed event which has a specific start and end time. Here we are back in retell.ai to have a look at the calendar functions that we're using in this calendar book day component. Obviously in this component we only use the day related functions, so you can see here we have the check day function, and later on, once it's been approved by the user, we have the add event day function. Now let me show you how these functions look like. So let's start with the check day component, function. This checks the calendar. I've chosen to check the next 3 days available. You could also check further down in the future, or you can ask the user if they have a preferred date. It's really up to you how to use this. It then has specified the webhook for the make.com scenario, and then it sends 2 parameters to that webhook, which is the end date and the start date. That's how it can check if that day is available. Once we want to book a day, then we use the add event day function. This is using another webhook, so it arrives at the right scenario in make.com. It then sends a hard-coded parameter that indicates that the event temporal type is day, and it sends the details of the day event, being the title and the end and start date. We have similar functions for timebox. We haven't used this in this example, but just to quickly show you, it calls a different scenario, and it sends the duration and the start time of a meeting. That way it can determine if that time slot is available in the calendar. Then we have the add event timebox. As you remember, that is calling the same scenario, which had that root term. So we send the same hard-coded parameter for event temporal type, in this case timebox. So it routes to that agent call that requests the booking of a timebox. A timebox needs more information. It has a title, a start time, and a duration. It also can indicate if it's a meeting or a video conference, in which case for Google Calendar you can add the conference option. So these are the functions available in retell.ai that connect to your make.com scenarios. Once we arrive to the end of this component, we have successfully added a date to our calendar. On success, it exits this component and returns to the main flow. You can also choose to do something if it fails to book the calendar event. For example, you could forward it to a human operator who could then manually book in the call. If we go back to our main flow, you can see that it comes out of that subcomponent where it started booking it, which is here. It then feeds back to the user that the booking was successful, and it politely ends the call. So that concludes the explanation of our voice agent workflow. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or a comment. Subscribe to the channel to not miss any upcoming videos. If you want to discover what voice agents can do for your organization, go over to do.ai or check the link in the description to book a free discovery call.